welcome to Svenglish, where you can learn English with Sven. Today we are looking at the present perfect negative. I made other videos on the present perfect positive and present perfect questions and other subjects, so if you are interested in those, please have a look. But today the focus is just on the present perfect negative. So we are going to look at what that is, why we use it, when and how we use it. We will look at the structure, so how to make sentences, and we will look at different examples using different subjects, and we will talk a little bit about regular, irregular verbs, and then there will be some time for you to practice at the end. So what is the present perfect negative and how and when do we use it? So the present perfect negative is used to talk about actions and things that were not completed at an unspecified time before now. All right, so people get confused about this, but generally with like the perfect tenses, we're more worried about the thing itself, not so much about when the thing happened. All right, so it either did or didn't happen at a time that is unspecified before now. If we were really worried about like when something did or didn't happen, we would use like the past simple tenses. So for the present perfect, we're more worried about the thing itself, not so much worried about when it happened. All right, so actions that were not completed at a time prior to now. Okay, so let's say, for example, if you were at work, you would use the present perfect negative to say things like, I haven't sent the email, I haven't phoned the customer, I haven't been to the meeting. All right, so we don't care so much about like when it didn't happen, we just care about the fact that in fact it didn't happen before now. If you were in a social situation, like if you were on holiday, speaking to other guests at a hotel using English, then you might be talking with them and say things like, oh, we haven't tried that restaurant, or we haven't visited that museum, we haven't been shopping, we haven't been to the theatre, things like that. Now, in terms of the structure for the present perfect negative, so the structure goes subject, and then either have or has, okay, then the negation, not, then the past participle, and then the complement. All right, so we're going to choose between have or has based on the subject. If the subject is I, we, you, or they, then we use have. If the subject is he, she, or it, we use has. And in either case, we're going to add not to make the negation afterwards, and we're generally going to contract that. All right, you don't have to, it's just a little bit more natural if we contract in English. If you were in a more formal situation, or if you were writing something more formal, then you probably wouldn't contract it. But if you're talking with someone or chatting on social media, then you would probably contract it. Okay. So let's have a look at some examples. All right. First example, I haven't worked hard this week. So we've got our subject I, so we know the choices have or has, and because the subject is I, we use have. The negation not, contracted, I haven't. The verb in the past participle form, so the verb to work is a regular verb, so we add ed, I haven't worked, and then the complement, hard this week. We know it's like this week is a time period which started before now and it isn't finished. Okay, so that's why we use the present perfect negative. Another example, he hasn't played football many times. He hasn't played football many times. So we've got the subject he, has, the negation not, contracted, hasn't, the verb to play, regular verb, past participle, conjugate it or change it, we add ed, and then the complement, football many times. So the sort of time period we're talking about is between the moment this person was born, which was before now, up to now, which is the present. So during that time period, the action of playing football did not happen many times. So he hasn't played football many times. Another example, she hasn't finished the report. Subject, has, not, past participle, complement. She hasn't finished the report. It hasn't rained a lot this month. Okay, so it hasn't rained a lot this month. It is the subject, so we use has with the negation not. It hasn't, the verb to rain, rained a lot this month is our complement. We haven't studied English for years. Okay, we is the subject, so we use have, negation not, haven't, the verb to study, conjugate it, studied English for years. So we're talking about a time period from more than 1 year ago up to the present day. You haven't made pasta for dinner. Same format, subject, have, not, the verb to make, conjugated to the past participle made, complement, pasta for dinner. They haven't gone for a walk. Okay, so maybe they've done something else, maybe they're here, maybe they're not here, but what is for sure is that they have not gone for a walk. They haven't gone for a walk. Okay, so now just a quick comment on regular and irregular verbs. So in English, about 75% of verbs are regular. So generally speaking, to conjugate or change regular verbs into the past participle, we just add ed to the end. All right, there are a couple of little points to look at about that. So add ed to the end, that's fine. But if the verb already finishes with e, well, we shouldn't add ed, we just add d. So the verb to bake already finishes with an e. There's no point adding ed because that would make it baked. So we just add the d. Bake becomes baked. If the verb finishes in a y, then we change the y into an I, why not? And then we add ed. So study becomes studied. And finally, you've got like regular verbs where you've got a stressed vowel before the final consonant. Okay, so what we do in that case is we double that last letter and then add ed. So a verb like to refer, okay, we would change that to referred, but it would be double R ed. So for irregular verbs, right, that's the other 25% of the verbs in English approximately, they don't conjugate the same way as regular verbs. Okay, so for irregular verbs you need to learn how to conjugate them as you progress learning English. So I think you will learn irregular verbs and the way to conjugate or modify them all the time as you progress in English. You'll learn more and more and more. Okay, I will make separate videos all about irregular verbs to help with that. So that's things like to eat, ate, eaten, things like that. Okay, read, read, read. Those are like irregular verbs, and the conjugation is completely different to the regular verbs, and you just have to learn it as you go. So now it's time for you to practice. What I want you to do is remember that structure that we talked about. Okay, so we've got our subject and then have or has, then the negation with not, but we contract it. Okay, and then we're going to have the past participle and the complement. So I will give you a sentence with all the words in the wrong order, and I want you to think about that structure and reconstruct the sentence with the words in the correct order to make the present perfect negative. Let's do the first example together. We're going to do 7, all right? We'll do 1 for each type of subject. Okay, so we'll do the first one together. So, for example, this week, hard, have not worked I. So I go back to my structure. The subject is I. Have or has, well, it must be have. And the negation not, contracted. So I haven't. The verb work, so worked, I haven't worked, and the complement hard this week. I haven't worked hard this week. Okay, number 2, Try this one on your own. Many times, football, played, he has not. Football, played, he has not. Subject, has, negative, the verb in the past participle, complement. He hasn't played football many times. Okay, number 3. Report finished, she has not the. Report finished, she has not the. She hasn't finished the report. Okay, what's this? Number 4. A lot this month rained, it has not. A lot this month rained, it has not. It hasn't rained a lot this month. Okay, 3 more. English for years studied, we have not. We haven't studied English for years. 2 more. Dinner, pasta, for, made, you, not, have. You haven't made pasta for dinner. Okay, last one. For a walk, they have not gone. They haven't gone for a walk. Okay, how did you get on? Did you get everything right? I hope you did. If you didn't, you have to go back to the start of the video, watch it again, remember the structure, and try the practice again, okay? Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed that and I hope you learned something. I hope you found it interesting. Try putting examples of the present perfect negative in the comments. Please like, subscribe and share. And I thank you very much for your support. And I will see you again soon for more Svenglish, where you can learn English with Sven. Bye!